It's just they got it. I expect to learn things, Kyle, today. I expect to learn things. At least one thing.
I'm shaking everybody's hand with my hands are ice because I've been holding the cold water.
Also make sure
Should we start it over here? That's right.
need to do a little finagling, a little MacGyvering.
Fun.
I did that.
So I can get my plate set up.
Look at how lucky. Yes. Did not even know that was. We didn't even know. We can move still. We can still move. You haven't changed it. I'm not. Well, the world today. It depends on the dial. Yeah, somebody may give you a better offer. That's right. Even though I'm convinced if I can get a better offer, you get a better table offer. Use it with rental, man, or I can do better than that. Did you have a good holiday break? We did have a good holiday break. Yeah. Kind of caught up on us, because of the late Thanksgiving and all that. Yeah. So, whole time it just was there. Now it's already.
That
That it
was-
At the semester or at the end? At first it was gonna be now, but now it's gonna be the end. OCRS, they need 90 days, and then she wants to make sure that this and that, some of this on. And then she was gonna try to do it, I think now June 1st. So that's, I don't know, she would turn around and scare me. She was still professional sociology, but for the last 13 years, she's been senior associate dean of just all the graduate students, graduate college. Administration, people, deans, she's full tenure professor, so she goes back to that will, I say. And I wanted her to look at some other opportunities. 10 years ago, she would have, but now she's a lot.
I'm gonna tell you, a lot of energy to do that, to go. And at some point in life, you go, oh, I don't understand that.
Somehow, leave your church, leave your people, leave your neighbors, leave your everything. Move to, Philadelphia. I mean, sure, it'd be great, but think about what all that would
Hey, Brad. Hey, Brad.
Hello,
Andrew. Oh, okay.
Yeah, give it 6 months. Then you get to do what you want.
Is that a video?
Probably, yeah.
You keep saying this. I really feel like we should.
Thank you.
University.
You have any quiz?
You know, I mean, come in and say, okay, she's very good at sort of
Give it to me because.
helping massage those processes, understands egos, understands. And I think it's actually a neat little consultancy to go in and say, the business department all hate each other. We'll come in, we help you in over the span of a year, where they can at least sit in the same room together. And that may mean this person had this, essentially that kind of focus. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. Happy 2025. Happy New Year's to everyone. My name is Gina Bertoletti. We're going to go ahead and get started. And to all of those that are joining us via Zoom today, hello, and we're going to be monitoring the chat. Let's get a couple of housekeeping items out of the way really quick. If you're on the executive committee, we do have a meeting directly after today's power lunch. So you'll want to stay, I believe it's in this room. So you'll want to hang out for a little bit. Let's see. If you have any questions while we're presenting today, just put your questions in the Zoom box or in the chat box there, and we'll be answering those. Newsletter sponsor, as always, we have Insurica, who's sponsoring our newsletter today. And sponsorship ensures that OVF continues to provide quality content. So we appreciate Insurica for their continued support for what we do here. Oh, OVF Awards. I know everyone got an email from Shay. It is that time again to start nominating people for OVF Awards. The applications for nominations were sent out, I believe, a day or two ago, so keep your eyes peeled for those. The applications and nominations for the 2025 OVF Awards are now open. You should have received an email from Shay with the links in it. And share that link, if you would, with clients and friends or anyone that you think you should be nominating or has potential to nominate. Well, we're going to look for some good candidates this year, as always. The deadline to submit those nominations is January 26th. Also, now is the perfect time to sign up for a table sponsorship for that event if you would like. And if you have any questions about the application or nominating someone, just please reach out to Shay and she'll be able to help you with that. OVF podcasts. I love our OVF podcasts. So each of our presenters are invited to participate in a deep dive podcast. And that conversation takes place with our podcast manager, Lindsay Miller, from My Marketing Assistant. And if you are a podcast listener, check us out anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. Really interesting stuff on there. You get a more in-depth knowledge of the people that are presenting and pitching to you every day. Okay, let's see who's a guest in the room. If you're a guest, what I'd like to do is invite you to stand up and then just tell us your name and who you are. Who do we got today that's with us that's a guest? All right.
No, you're not a guest.
She's still not a guest.
I'm Luke Simpkins. I actually gave an OVF talk a number of years ago. We're a document AI. We're a document AI company. Right now, we focus on aviation titles, so we help clean up the title process when it's very, very document heavy. And every aviation title company is here in Oklahoma City, in the nation. So that's how we got our start here. And I'm here to kind of meet people that have document process problems. We'd like to expand outside of that. So nice to meet you.
Excellent, thank you. Today, anyone?
Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel Sotomayor. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, but I moved to Oklahoma 10 years ago for my senior year of high school. And I worked in MetFirst Bank, I'm a financial analyst supporting our California division, which bank we acquired in 2017. So I just do financial reporting for them and all their ad hoc reports. And I'm here to expand my network and meet more like-minded individuals. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Any more guests in the room? We certainly appreciate our guests, and we appreciate you guys giving us the gift of your time. We like having guests with us. It's a nice way to make some great connections. Oh, here we are. We have our first pitch presenter today. We're going to be hearing from Joe Van Oort. He is the founder and CEO of Gift. And Gift is an AI-powered application that combines family engagement with nonprofit engagement. And Joe, when you come up, I'm going to ask you just to stay around the microphone because the people that are connected on to Zoom, they can only hear if you're talking into the microphone. And then when we have just a minute for some questions and answers, if you don't mind just repeating the question so people online can hear you as well. All right, Joe, you're up.
So I point this up a little bit like that. So, hi, I'm Joe. Well, actually, my real name is Sjoerd. I'm from the Netherlands, so I might be your most international guest ever. I don't know. I moved my family to Tulsa in January last year, 1 year back, 2024. So I live here now. Within a week, I'll be living in Oklahoma for a year exactly. So I will be telling you something about Gift today. Sorry for my accent. Some people think it's cute. Some people think, what is he talking about? I don't know. Anyway, and if you ask me a question and you need to repeat it, it's for the same reason. Okay, so I'm the founder and CEO of Gift. And the easiest way to put it is Gift helps parents to raise their children, and we help nonprofits to raise donations and volunteers. And that might seem like a weird combination, but after my pitch, I hope you understand how that actually works. So I don't know who in here has kids. My kids are 8 and 13 years old. So to me, this is very These are scenes I recognize, and parenting is hard. I think every parent you would ask, they will tell you parenting is hard. But especially in modern times, we see that parenting is actually experienced as harder than before. And that has to do with digital and social media, which even backed by science shows that kids growing up nowadays suffer more from anxiety, have lower self-esteem, higher depression rates. So there's a serious issue going on. And that's what parents, of course, will experience when they try to raise their kids. So there is hope. Science also shows that a daily practice of gratitude results in a more generous mindset within kids and within the parents, actually. And why is that relevant? Because science shows that a generous mindset is key to combat the effects of digital and social media. So a generous mindset creates this open mindset, this open attitude you need to build relationships. And that is the way out of depression, the way out of most social issues, while social and digital media creates a very closed, entitled, anxious personality. So, but modern day family life in the US is very fragmented. So it's very difficult to implement a daily practice of gratitude. So that's where we come in. So the tools of gift help you in that situation. And the way we do that is actually, the main thing is that we provide you with the right question at the right time. So as parents, we try to communicate with our kids, we try to talk with them. That's our main tool as adults, conversations. But if I ask my 8-year-old daughter how was school, she will say, fine, and then it's done. So it's difficult to find the right language. So what we do is we provide the right question at the right time. That can be in the morning, that could be when you pick up the kids from school, that could be when you bring the kids to bed. So we help that conversation go. And we gamify that family conversation to make it sticky, to make it engaging. So you're not fighting with your kids to have a conversation, to help them reflect on their day and build a different mindset, but it makes the kids longing for more. So we started doing that in the US. It's still in a beta phase. Even in beta, we've seen that we have a lot of parents jumping onto it. We have kids using it, but very importantly, see a very healthy month-on-month growth of families flowing in. Where we currently get those families from is through Gathering Place, which we're partnering with, based on a scavenger hunt they can do around generosity, and they start using our tool, or churches which we use to roll out and constantly get new users to learn from and fine-tune this solution to get enough engagement. And so the way this works, the psychology behind it is actually exactly the same psychology which is used by tools which results in the issues we're dealing with. So we call that the hooked model, and that's the psychology behind LinkedIn, behind Tinder, behind TikTok, behind Facebook, behind email, everything. And the way it works is you need a trigger. That's a push in, and over time there's an action. Somebody does something. So people have that conversation, and that is provided in a game, or it's provided just by the right language, the right question. And then we reward them. We use gamification to create that reward so that people have a positive response in their brain, and they do an investment. So they think about their next step. And this is a very important part, the fourth part, because that makes people coming back and back and back and back. And it is the same when you reply to your email. Every time you reply to an email, you make it more likely that you're using that platform to communicate. So we made a game around bedtime. That was the first thing we've done. And there we saw that we had very good engagement. So it took 3 days before kids started asking for that before bedtime. Can we play the gratitude game? 75% of the families doing that played at least 3 times a week. 16.5 minutes was the average playing time. And that's a lot if you consider that the average time an American family spends together per day is 37 minutes. So that's not a lot. This made a big change. And we saw that 50% of those people did generous deeds afterwards. And that is also the link to how in the world can this be a business. So first, we have the objective of the parent on one side to be more connected as a family. And we combine that with the objective of nonprofits, and their biggest struggle is raising donations from young families. People who use our platform expose themselves to real opportunities from real nonprofits, because if I want to teach my kids to be generous, They should learn about nonprofits in Tulsa or in Oklahoma City, and I want them to put that into action. So I can give my kids giving allowance and they start giving real dollars to these nonprofits. But I, as a parent, want to model my behavior. I also start donating and signing up to volunteer. And that's how we can make the business out of that. So we're in the early stage with this. We now make $3 per month on a family, but we know that if families start using this more and more, they build memories. You'll have pictures there of your daughter or audio recordings of what they were grateful for. People are willing to pay for that. But also with the group of families growing and growing, nonprofits will be willing to pay more and more to get exposure within that group of families. And we're now talking with corporates about making this part of their benefit program for families, because it reduces stress in young families, which is the main factor for not being at work or being distracted. So we have a great team behind this with people from the Netherlands. I'm not the only one. With people from the US. There's a healthy business behind us in the Netherlands paying part of this expansion here, where we have over 180,000 users with a different product, but in the same sector. So currently we're raising $1.5 million. We've already raised 500,000, so we can allow another 1 million of investment. And if you're interested in that, you should definitely ask me more. If you wonder what I've been talking about and you want somebody with an American accent to tell you, then you can also request it. Okay, that's it.
Start with the first question for
Yes.
you. Does this platform come in multiple languages?
Currently, it's only in English, so we only do it for the US. We will next do it in Spanish. Of course, we have products used in Europe, in Dutch and in English, but it's a different product. Yeah.
Excellent.
But we try to wait with that so that we don't create more complexity. We want to learn, and we focus on Tulsa and Oklahoma first. Yeah.
Gotcha. What other questions do we have?
And sorry for not repeating that question.
That's okay.
Yes.
This is an app-driven product?
Yeah, the core of it is an app. So the question is it an app-driven product? Sorry? Yeah, you can download the app. Yeah, so the core is an app, but there are some tangible elements we use. For instance, churches using it. There's also a coin kids use at Sunday to have this tangible act of generosity at church. We have a card game, which is part of what we do when we launch a church or when they start using it at a gathering place. But in the end, it all funnels to the app. That's where we want to see engagement, retention, and that's what the business model is built around. Yeah. Other questions? Yes.
How long have you been in business, and are you a spin-off from another company in Europe?
So the question is how long I've been in business and if this is a spin-off. If you would have asked me 2 years ago if it is a spin-off, no. Now I'd say it is kind of a spin-off, but I'm the founder of the company in the Netherlands, and I've been in business there for 8 years now. We've built a healthy business there, which is very profitable. It's small because the Netherlands is small, but we've done a good job of scaling it, making it very healthy. And the next step was the US, since 75% of all the giving by individuals happens in the US. And our goal is to secure the future of giving. And so the next step was the US. So it's not a spin-off. We're still considering making it maybe a spin-off for some legal reasons, but it is the Dutch company who founded the company in the US for now. Yeah. And who's been funding also the expansion. Yes.
Another question. You talked about like the initial engagement was a lot of times going to bed. Sadly, there's so many families in the country, probably in the world, that have single parent families.
Yes.
They're being raised by grandparents. Will this app and the engagement work remotely? Like if the child is not in the parent's home, could the other parent engage with them through the app?
So the question is summarized, if it can work remotely, if not all parents, if we don't talk about an ideal family with both parents there around, yes. So we already assume that it is one parent bringing a kid to bed and the other is not there. So one of the things which is already there is when I played it, let's use my own daughter, I played it with my daughter. We both reflected on our day. My wife instantly gets a summary of what we were grateful for that day, and how we've been generous, and we can record an audio message, which most of the time doesn't contain a lot of useful information. It's my daughter doing whatever, but to create that connection. The next step, we already identified is that there are a lot of grandparents, for whatever reason, but very, very motivated to help their grandchildren grow up with certain values they value. So we meet a lot of, in these churches launching gift, we meet a lot of grandparents bringing their grandchildren to church, but the parents aren't there. So we already see opportunities that we could help that connection become stronger. So if the grandparent could maybe sponsor the kids, saying, hey, here's $10 every month to give to a nonprofit, and grandma receives every day a summary before they go to bed how their day was. And actually yesterday I talked with a big corporate in Tulsa, which says most of our employees are in that age range. So I would like it to work that it is the grandparent getting that benefit. So partly it is already there. It's definitely part of the vision. Yeah.
One more question? Great. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See how far I got to pull that microphone down to get it down to my short size, right? Great presentation. Thank you. Okay. Our main speaker today, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. So we're in for a treat. We have our past OVF chair, Kyle Golding from Minder School of Business. He's going to talk about the top 5 mistakes every business makes and how to address them. Kyle, it's all you.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, so about 6 months ago, Shay and Gina were talking about the programming for this session, and Shay said January is going to be marketing. I was like, marketing? Really? We've all heard marketing talks, and they're usually pretty generic. And typically there's not very much actionable item out of it. And so, of course, Shay said, dang, Kyle, like, what do you propose? I said, well, ironically, I just come off doing a mentor session with G-Beta and with Generator. And there were common themes, these kind of 5 common mistakes that the startup folks were really struggling with. At the same time, over the last 15 years or so of consulting with really large established companies, they also make the same mistakes, just in different ways. And so these are kind of the areas that people say they know they should be working on, things they should be thinking about, and they just do it kind of at surface level, kind of check that box in the business plan and then move on. And then at the end of the year go, why isn't this working? So I was explaining this to Shay and Gina, like I kind of got a little fired up. You guys know how I am, right? I get going, right? Like, oh, you got to tell them this. And Shay said, fine, you'll be the speaker. You'll do that presentation. I'm like, great. It's going to take me about an hour. And Shay says, no, you get 15 minutes. So with that, what I'm going to do is I do have 5 mistakes that every business makes. I'm going to give you guys what it looks like for a entry-level business, for a startup. I'm going to give you what it looks like for a successful established business. I'm going to challenge you at each of these 5 areas to do more and to be more specific and tell you why it is you think you're doing it right, but you're not. May feel like I'm yelling at you a little bit, and I'm kind of intentionally doing it that way. A lot of times our speakers stand up here and they're very nice and very congenial and go, I hope you take this advice and do well. And you go back to the office with it and you think, that is nice, and we're probably doing it, we're fine. I am here to challenge you today that you can do more, should be doing more in these 5 areas. Okay, with that, we're going to use the traditional who, what, when, where, why, and how method to explain these 5 areas so that I've kind of grouped them together so that they'll make sense in everyone's brains. And again, I'm going to do about an hour and about 13 minutes now, so I expect some very robust Q&A too, as to you guys saying, okay, you said this, but specifically, what does that mean, okay? And folks on Zoom, make sure you type into the chat box as well. So who, what, when, where, why, and how is a traditional method of learning things. Except this is business, we have to start with why. Do you know why we start with why?
Why?
Someone yell out why we start with why.
Why do we start with why?
If you don't know why we start with why, we're already in trouble, right? Simon Sinek wrote a whole book about why we start with why. Business starts with why, because your inspiration, your motivation, why your business exists, if it's a startup and it's going to come into the world, or it's an existing business that's going to continue on, how we serve our customers, how we as founders or as leaders operate ourselves, but again, our motivation, our inspiration starts with our why. And I'm not going to get into it too much because I don't have enough time today, but if you have not read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, go get it today and read it immediately. It will kind of dovetail into everything else we're talking about today. Yes, Shay?
You have extra time, don't worry.
Thank you. I'll slow down a little bit. You have to start with why, because if your motivation and inspiration are wrong, it is a poison fruit that everything else will be poisoned from. If your inspiration is to make a lot of money, be rich, be famous, to beat someone else, to prove to your high school sweetheart that you can be successful, any of those external factors are your motivation, your why, your ideas, your gut effort are in vain. You're likely to fail, very likely to fail. Start with why, your motivation, your inspiration, and then you'll be able to attract other people to your business, work within your business with the same vision and direction and motivation. If your why is something polluted, everyone attracted to you, everyone that does business with you will be polluted by it. So this is why we start with why. Simon Sinek also has what he explains as the golden circle. It's a simplified version of what I'm going to talk about today. Why, how, what. When you start with why, the how becomes clear, and then what you do comes out of that. So we'll start part 2, the who. Who is your customer and how are you reaching them? Your ideal initial customer persona and market identification are two things that kind of go hand in hand. The mistake that businesses make is, number one, everyone is not your client. Anyone who's ever stated, would do business with everyone, is completely wrong. You have to be not just more specific, but much, much, much more specific as to who your customer is, whether it's an initial customer or your continuing customer. And this is a conversation about marketing and about market attraction. Yes, other people can do business with you. Other people might be attracted to your product or service for other reasons. But you, as the operator, have to define as specific as possible the most likely consumer to initially buy your product or service, find value in it, and then repeat that purchase process. You should not be putting marketing efforts into selling something one time. You should be marketing efforts into selling something continually because you offer something to the right person for the right reasons that provides value, and it's a repeatable transaction. Single transactions are fine, but real business value and real profitability come from repeatable business, and that comes from you identifying your target audience as specifically as possible. Now, back in the Mad Men days, we would say, oh, the target audience are men. Demographic, right? It's men, it's women. Eventually we said it's men over 40, it's women under 20. Eventually we started saying the demographic is men over 40 who are college educated who make a certain amount of money per year. Still not enough to really understand what motivates and inspires and activates that consumer. But a male over 50 lives in Oklahoma, enjoys craft beer, college sports, and business education. Well, that persona for that individual will be, we'll call that guy Kyle. And we also know from consumer behaviors, from his credit card and other ways, that if he spends a certain amount of money on craft beer each month, then he might also spend money on technology or fashion or his automobile or where they dine or other things that are discretionary spending. So my new iPad is trying to get to sleep on me. So the deeper we get into demographics, into behaviors as to who our audience really is, and again, not to find your brand intriguing, but to spend their money with you providing the value from what you provided for them that they will continue to spend money with you on a regular basis. That is your market identification. That is your consumer persona. It needs to be so specific you can put a name on it. The mistake businesses make is stopping too early in identifying the consumer and being so specific as to who they are, what their behaviors are, what the name of this person is. That when you make that mistake, when you don't go far enough, you don't truly understand their behaviors, their motivations, and your marketing is good but not great. It's doing okay, but it's missing the mark. And the excuse often is, well, we don't want to miss opportunities. We don't want to exclude anyone. But again, this is just marketing. You will do business with whoever would like to do business with you. You're going to take their money. You're going to create a transaction with them. But if you're going to spend time, effort, attention, and your money on marketing, it needs to be as specific of a target as possible, all the way down to what their hobbies are, their interests, things that truly motivate them, what their favorite color is, if you can find that out. You can find this out in a variety of ways, right? When you know certain demographics that can lead you to collective behaviors, talked about spending habits, et cetera, earlier. There's also finding your current audience, surveying them, letting them tell you what it is that they appreciate about your offering, what they would spend more on, what is important to them. It's them, not you. The mistake leadership makes in a business is thinking, I think this is a good idea. I would like this addition to our product. I would respond to marketing like this. We, as a collective, think that people will think this is great. That's the mistake. Your audience, the current people spending money with you, them, not you, is how you decide how your product or service innovates, how you move forward, how you continue developing that business relationship. So don't make the mistake of, we're a room full of smart people, we can figure this out. Do take the opportunity to engage your audience as specific as possible so that you can move forward in very specific ways, but very smart, repeatable ways. So it's about them, not you. That's underlined because that theme is going to come up with us a couple of times today. Step 3, the what and the when. Now, we often start with our products, right? The MVP, the minimally viable product, is where our product development starts. There's an old saying, keep it simple, stupid, is the saying, right? You've heard it, the KISS method. It's actually should be expressed as keep it stupid simple. Your product or service should be the most simplest version of it when you launch it. And going back to our last point, as you develop, as you add features, as you develop and continue on that product, that service, your brand identity, keeping it as simple, stupid, simple as possible until, again, them, not you, until your audience demands and request more and additional or different things. You can continue on with essentially what you started out with your MVP for 100 years if your audience never demands any more. Because you shouldn't spend time, money, energy, and money developing something that no one is not just only requesting, but demanding for your product. The fallacy where people in business get in trouble is they get bored. They get bored with what they do. And they say, man, we've been doing same thing for the last 5 years. We need to do something different. We need to do more. We see our competitors doing things. We should do the same thing. And you're internally deciding this, again, as opposed to letting them tell you, not you decide you want to do more. Don't spend time, money, effort, and money on things that aren't demanded or highly appreciated by your audience, simply because you want to do something new. You want to do something different. Wait for the audience to demand it or stay consistent of what you've been doing. That's the cost for demand. You should never incur cost without demand. It's easy when you're in a startup, right? You don't have any money. We got very little money to spend. What are we going to spend our money on? Only spend the money on something that will help us market and sell our product or service. Well, our company's making a lot of money. What should we do? Let's just spend money. Don't just spend money to spend money. Spend money on things that are demanded by your audience or dictated by your competitive scenario, and not simply because you want to, or you're simply bored or not challenged by what you're currently doing. Big, successful companies make this mistake all the time. It's easier for them to absorb because they're profitable and they have cash flow and it's less of an impact. Startups feel it when they lose $50, $100, $500. When your startup loses $1,000 or $10,000, it hurts really bad. So it makes more sense in a startup scenario to not do something until it's demanded as far as economic impact. It's often overlooked by successful companies, but it's something that's holding you back from reaching 100% of what you could be. And again, follow the audience with what your product or service development is. The idea that you can implement something new, change something, go into a different market, and essentially force your way into the consumer's mind, force your way into a market, make them understand you, not you understanding them, is one of the greatest mistakes a business can make. So don't fail by trying to force your way into the audience, into the market, or into their thought process. Instead, be accepted into it by asking and listening to that audience. So the where in this scenario is not just where our physical location is. We're not talking about brick and mortar where. We're talking about your position. Your position in the industry is your where. You can't understand positioning until you've done the work internally. This is one of the biggest mistakes everyone makes is they say, we did a SWOT. You guys know what SWOT, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? They show me their SWOT. Here's the list of all the strengths. We can do everything. We're great. Here's a list of weaknesses. It's very short and not very honest. Here are all the opportunities we should be taking advantage of. Probably not. And there's pretty much no threats. It's not very honest. It's not very realistic. And you should be doing these things as an internal process. So you have to be completely honest with yourself, with your consultants, with any people who are trying to help you really build your business. If you're dishonest or not true with yourself in your SWOT analysis, you will not come to the right conclusions. Will you then eventually not be positioned correctly, which then means you're marketing, competing in an uphill battle. This is one of the biggest mistakes every business of every size ever makes, is not having an honest SWOT analysis and then letting the outcome of that SWOT analysis tell you where you can go. The second half of your position is competitive analysis. Again, honest competitive analysis. It's too easy to say, everyone we compete with stinks. We're better than them. They're not good enough. We'll do it better. But I'm here to tell you, just doing it better is not a strategy. It's a pipe dream. It's a hope. It's a wish. Just doing it better is not strategy. So understanding who you are through your SWOT analysis, understanding what the competitive landscape is, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of all your competitors, if you do this properly, should show you a position somewhere that you have strength and your competitors don't, or it's a weakness or at least a neutral for them. A conversation you could have where you would win that argument every time because you're leading with your strength, you're avoiding your weaknesses, you're going into a position that one or two or three of your competitors don't own and dominate. So if you needed to win an MMA fight, would you go up against the champion or someone who just started last week? You don't go straight for the champion, that's their strength. You go for someone who started last week who has no experience. Try to compete, position your brand, your marketing, your emphasis in a place in the market that you have the most potential to win. That's positioning. You only know how to position if you're honest about the strengths and weaknesses of your competition and the strengths and weaknesses of your organization. This is a huge mistake that almost every business makes. You have to shoot that gap, find that spot that no one else owns in the market, and then own it because it's a true strength of your organization. It's the path of least resistance. So better is not a strategy. You take the path of least resistance. And then finally, one of my favorite words in all of marketing, in all of business, Repeat it with me, differentiation. Differentiation, differentiation, differentiation. You don't win, you don't create successful marketing, you don't create a successful business based on better. Better is a subjective term. Better means something different to everyone. Differentiation is setting yourself apart, creating something different, being different to the consumer, providing them product or service the way you provide them because you positioned yourself correctly. You then live up to the expectations created by your marketing, and you create that repeatable business. Being different, having a different offering. Pepsi is different than Coke. They're both different than Budweiser, and they're all different than Powerade, and none of that has anything to do with Nike. Setting yourself apart, being different is the advantage. Trying to be better is simply a wish, a hope, and that is not a strategy. So how do we do this? I just gave you 19 minutes now. Thank you for the extra time, Shay. Of high-level concepts of how a business can be successful. What does it all mean? How do we do this in a simple, easy way to understand? Extreme focus and consistency. This is the key to everything. The key to being successful in absolutely anything. To be successful in business, to be successful in your relationships. If you want to lose 10 pounds for your New Year's resolutions, you do that by being focused and being consistent, by practicing over and over and over again with a keeping it simple, stupid simple focus on what it is you're actually trying to achieve, why it aligns with your motivations, how it builds on the strengths of your organization, and what the position is in the market that provides you the biggest opportunity. That's the simplest version of what a 500-page business plan would look like. You achieve things. The how comes from being effective and efficient with extreme focus and consistency. That's often boring. Businesses will make a mistake of saying, this doesn't seem challenging. This is not exciting. Let's do something different. Let's go into different markets. Let's spend some money. Let's do some things. That takes you away from your core offering and takes you away from your highest potential. Don't worry about being exciting at work. Don't have the most exciting product or service offering. Have the most consistent service offering that offers the highest value that's repeatable to your consumer on a regular basis. Doesn't mean you never innovate because you're listening to that audience. You're letting the market and your audience dictate what comes next. If they need different things because technology has changed, because the community has changed, communication has changed, even sometimes the law has changed and things need to be different, your audience will tell you what it is. Following that path while staying consistent in what you've already established is how you have the most potential to be successful. It can seem boring, but it's effective. Consistency always wins. Great ideas don't matter if you can't execute. Execution comes down to effective, efficient consistency. So finally, we'll wrap it up with a little bit of the how bonus. We started by talking about the fact that you have to establish a very specific audience, your primary audience, your target audience. They're very specific. You sometimes have a secondary audience that you find along the way in the process. Once you have mined that whole audience, once you have as much as you can get of that consumer, you start building the next consumer and the next consumer from center out. Who that person is, now someone who's very adjacent. Again, if our example was a 50-something-year-old male who lives in Oklahoma and likes craft beer, we do not immediately jump to a 12-year-old girl. That's not adjacent. That's not center out. We go to maybe a slightly younger, maybe someone who's less interested in certain activities, maybe someone who makes a little bit less money or is a little bit less educated. But we don't make massive leaps in different directions. You work in concentric circles. Your marketing should be today, this week, that month, the next year, the next 5 years. All these concentric circles working at the same time with consistency. So you saturate that initial market before you move on. But how do you find or figure out how you move from center out? It's the 80-20 rule. 80% of what works, 20% experimentation. This is in your marketing. Your marketing should be 80% of what you know and believe and is consistently working for you and showing ROI, but you should be experimenting 20% of the time. Should we be on TikTok? Should we be on Facebook? Should we make a bus ad? Should we put information on the web in a completely different way? Should we hire an influencer? If you could take 20% of your marketing budget and put it towards things like that, where you're asking the question as opposed to knowing, a lot of that will fail. Some of it will be successful. What's successful, you then can incorporate back into the 80% and expand what it is you do consistently. So be consistent 80% of the time, experiment 20% of the time, be open to the process, build from the center out. That was a whole lot. That was a whole lot in 23 minutes. So let's have some Q&A. Come on, Shay. I will repeat the question for you into the microphone.
So when you're considering a business like an event coordinating or an
Yes.
event management business, typically they're hallmark moments and they're one-time customers. So when you're saying you want to offer consistent, or you want something that's reusable, repurchasable, or resellable, what would you say to somebody in a business like that?
Two things to consider. Number one is the type of event. If it's a wedding, if it's a graduation event, if it's a gender reveal, if it's corporate event, even if it's one time for them, there are other people who would do that type of event. So you need to kind of own that space. Great example, like I'm looking at Dennis with his camera, like there are photographers who only do weddings. And you say, hey, will you come and do my headshots? They say no. And there are photographers who do headshots who won't do weddings. So event could be the same thing. At the same time, if you promise that you do this type of event extremely well, this is what you do, you set an expectation with your marketing, you deliver on it, you're great at it, the people at that event then can recommend you to other people and say, well, we went to this wedding, Shay did an amazing job with that wedding, you should have her at your wedding. They might call you up and ask you about a different type of event, a bachelorette party or a graduation party, and you might be willing to do it, but that'd be a secondary market for you, not primary. So, but again, own a niche. If in event planning, don't just do like any event there is from 3 people to 6,000. Because if your event company really should be doing people less than 50 attendees, if someone wants you to do the royal wedding, you can't achieve it. So you shouldn't take that client on. Flip though, if you're a big company with lots of infrastructure, catering company with giant vans and big commercial kitchens, they shouldn't do an event for 50 because they'll lose money on it. So staying focused on who it is you serve and how you do it. Tracy?
How do you recommend teams do the SWOT exercise? Do they do it individually and then you come back together and talk about it?
I think that's a really good way to get the ball rolling, but I think it's essential. Thank you for asking this question. And the question is, how do you organize a SWOT analysis? Starting individually and then bringing those things collectively in groups, I think kind of small groups, and then it goes up to the executive level. But ultimately, I really feel this way for the whole business plan process, but this aspect, the SWOT and the competitive analysis, you absolutely positively must bring in a third party. You need a neutral third party arbitrator. You need a person or a group of people, that's what they do, to work you through the process, to challenge those assertions, to not let anyone off the hook easy, to not let them give you 200 strengths and 3 weaknesses. Like if I'm your consultant on that, I automatically stop the conversation and we're gonna blow that apart. We're gonna have a conversation about why that isn't realistic. So however you organize it for your business, depending on your size and your kind of organizational structure, the ultimate, what did we learn from this, has to have a third party influence where it won't be honest. It really won't be held to account. But it's always better to hire that person because you can put them on a contract, there's non-disclosure, this is an internal process. This is not for anyone else to ever know about you in the world. So it has to stay internal, so you need a professional who's gonna keep those trade secrets, if you will. Any other questions? Yes, Dennis.
For further books do you recommend?
Further books you recommend? Yeah, so we started with Simon Sinek's Start With Why. That was one. Good to Great and Build to Last are two books that are combination books. They're Good to Great's about 20 years old now, but it still stands the test of time when you're talking about how great companies are built in this type of conversation. I just started Atomic Habits over Christmas break, so I think that's going to be one that I feel really good about. The next one I'm going to read is Grit. So those are the books that are kind of front and center for me. Simon Sinek has some other works that I think work out really well, and anything by Gary Vaynerchuk. So Jab, 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 Right Hook, the Thank You Economy, any of those. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. What a great presentation. A lot of information in that. Before I forget, I'd like to give you your speaker gift for today. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you. Oh, it's survey time. So do us a favor. I think there's only like 1 or 2 questions on the survey. I'm going to leave that up there. If you guys don't mind taking the survey for us, that helps us to make sure that we're getting the content correct when we have our monthly meetings. That makes sure that we are speaking to what you need as business owners and venture capitalists and so forth. So. All right, while you're doing that, monthly door prize is sponsored by Standards IT. And if you look under the edge of your table for a neon sticker, you've won the door prize. Take a look. Sticker, who's got the sticker?
Totally assuming you didn't put it on the table.
No, I didn't place the sticker, by the way.
No one?
Date.
Check it out.
Keep looking. I have no idea where it's at, so I'll be just as surprised as the rest of you.
Is this it?
Oh, we have a winner. It was on an empty seat. That's all right. I don't have it. Somebody else has it. We'll get it to you.
Dave's got one too.
Oh,
I did have one. There's
do
2
have
of them.
how about we throw it in the middle and let both of you fight?
Oh, I'm good.
We have a gift card for each of you.
Yeah, we'll get a gift card to each of you for that. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Next month, OVF will present a highlight of the Oklahoma Eco Builders System. So this is something that you definitely want to be here for. It's an opportunity to learn about all the resources that are available for small businesses and for startups. So make sure you register because seating on this one is going to be limited because this one fills up fast. So let me see what else we got. There's a door prize. I'm going to give you just a second if you guys want to scan that to make sure you guys get registered for that.
Yes, please go ahead and register.
Yeah. It helps us when you guys register for these events, by the way, it helps us to get a head count for food, for space and so forth. So the importance of registering is valid.
And it's going to be a great program.
Hit that button. Survey too.
Oh, yeah. Took a survey.
Can you take it back?
I got
Yeah, that last one took us to the survey.
Oh, you want the survey QR?
Survey for the QR code.
There you go.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the registration QR code last slide, I think, took us to the same, that takes us to the same location.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
survey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll also, Shay will send out an email also to make sure to remind everyone to get registered for this event. So we'll get that out to you. Hold on a second, let me get that. Okay. Upcoming lunches, in February, we're gonna be back here in Oklahoma City. That's the event I just talked about, the Share the Love event. And then in March, we're gonna be in Tulsa. So we're gonna do some pitch lunches up there. So hopefully everyone can join us in Tulsa. That's also a different venue altogether. Shay, where's that gonna be held at?
Gradient,
Gradient.
which is the new 36 degrees.
Okay, I didn't know if they had gotten settled in there or not, so, okay.
Yeah,
we're
they're starting
agreeing.
to give tours this month.
Okay. And then in April, we're back here in Oklahoma City with another power lunch, and that's about investability of Oklahoma. And then in October, or I'm sorry, in May, that's our big event, the 2025 OVF Awards. And so that's also going to be a great event. You'll have to register for that as well. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Appreciate you.
Good job.
With that.